on you.
Hey guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We're your hosts, Leah and Michelle. Today is the 17th of October. It's a day you're going to remember going down in history as being very notable. We have a ceasefire in Turkey, and guess who negotiated it?
Well, I'm not sure really you can call it a negotiation or demand whatever. But seriously, you have to see the letter that Trump wrote to Erdogan, basically saying, "Don't be stupid. The whole world is watching you."
So the Fox News article that I read said that it's reported or rumored that Erdogan threw the letter in the trash. Okay, I think that's silly. And I think that's probably stupid. Most of the time, things like that at least get filed away. Mm-hmm. He threw it in the trash. Like what? And if he had thrown it in the trash, that would be like a childish move, not a, because they were trying, it's almost like they're trying to make it out to seem like he's this staunch figure, like, forget Trump. You know, like, no, that's you being a big baby. I don't think he did it.
Mr. President, let's work out a good deal. You don't want to be responsible for slaughtering thousands of people, and I don't want to be responsible for destroying the Turkish economy, and I will. I've already given you a little sample with respect to Pastor Brunston. I have worked hard to solve some of your problems. Don't let the world down. You can make a great deal. General Mosulum is willing to negotiate with you, and he is willing to make concessions that they would never have made in the past. I am confidently enclosing a copy of his letter to me just received. History will look upon you favorably if you get this done the right and humane way. It will look upon you forever as the devil if good things don't happen. Don't be a tough guy. Don't be a fool. I will call you later. Sincerely, Donald Trump.
Trump wrote that letter. Like, you think that presidents have people that write letters for them? He would have had to found the most incredible clone of his mind. Only Donald Trump could write that letter. I can just imagine Trump. You know, he gets his person that writes his letters, you know, hey, grab your pen and paper, iTablet or whatever. Maybe even speaks this into his
The person who had to write it. The person who had to type it up. Don't be a fool.
No, it's so great.
Don't be a tough guy. I'll call you later.
I mean, what is he, some sort of mob boss or something? It's so great. I love my life so much.
Every time Trump's going to be boring. He's never boring. You guys, this is the real deal. And this is here's the thing. Everybody wants Trump to be presidential.
Right.
But I've got a little clippy here.
Okay.
Where, if you guys don't know this, Project Veritas is putting out every day clips from behind the scenes in CNN, right?
Yeah.
And they're fantastic. We're going to cover them tomorrow on our show at 6 o'clock. CNN's Patrick Davis here is caught on camera saying Obama got in office and he told Putin, wait until I get into office, I'll have more room to negotiate. And they're getting on Trump. And he also says Obama had 8 years to figure this thing out and just made things worse.
Yeah.
Obama was caught on camera.
With the Russian thing, right?
Yes. Wait till I get into office and I have more room to negotiate. I have more flexibility. And I'm going, holy shit. I'm going,
and I voted for the man.
but then Trump's getting hammered for twisting an arm. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. He has survived everything up to this point. Bill Clinton survived getting his under a table. You know what I'm saying? My guess is the House is crazy enough to go through with it, and they're starting it. Everyone's trying to do this from a holier-than-thou perspective, like, oh, he abused his power, and also, but like, these so 500 up there, abuse of power today. They do this every freaking day. What he was doing was nothing compared to what these are doing on a daily basis, right?
This is somebody at CNN. There was another clip, I thought I had it up, where he talks about Obama had 8 years and he, what did he do in the Middle East, right?
Right.
What did he do in the Middle East? Right and left, Trump is bringing peace. And this ceasefire is not going to be the end-all, be-all and the happy-go-lucky thing that everybody wants. Because guess what? There are bad people on both sides in the Middle East, okay? Assad is not an angel.
Right.
Erdogan is not an angel, and the
Right.
Kurds are not angels. So there really is no like super right and super wrong. We want to get our people out, and while we're doing it, let's help other people not to get slaughtered in the process.
Good idea.
Okay? So we had President Trump pull out, and then the Senate and the House, I guess, voted to rebuke Trump over his decision to withdraw troops from Syria.
Which is ridiculous. And as you're going to hear from Rand Paul and everybody else with a brain, the House didn't vote to send troops to Syria, and now they're balking and they're trying to say, no, now we need to vote. It's like, it does not make any sense. Constitutionally, the House has to vote. So if anything, Trump is giving a nod to the House to say, listen, you guys didn't approve this. We're backing out.
Right. So Chuck Schumer today attempted to get consent to bring up the House-passed resolution, arguing that we're in real trouble.
Yeah.
If Schumer thinks we're in real trouble, then we're actually sitting good. On Tuesday, the House voted 354 to 60, so we have 60 true patriots in the House.
Wow, that is pretty awesome.
No, what I mean is there's so many Republicans that are awful.
Wait a minute, read that again to me.
We voted 354 to 60 to oppose the decision to end certain U.S. involvement to prevent Turkish military. They voted, the House voted
I misheard that because I was sharing this on Facebook.
54.
Okay, wow.
To 60
so actually, that's really depressing.
Trump.
There's
only 60 patriots in the House.
Although, to be honest, even though I did make a slip, it is encouraging because I didn't know there was actually 60. I mean, seriously, it seems like the entire House is full of the swamp, you know?
We've got 60.
But we've got 60.
Paul blasted
There's the good news.
saying he should come to the floor, saying that we are ready to declare war. We are ready to authorize force. We are going to stick our troops in the middle of this messy, 5-sided civil war where we would ostensibly be opposed to the Turkish government that has made an incursion. The Kentucky Republican Rand Paul added that the House-passed resolution would do nothing to fix the problem. And go ahead and we'll start with Rand Paul on CNN last night, I believe. And it's the best thing that could happen for the Kurds.
Shoot, I've got a thing going. Hang on. Sorry, I hear it.
5-sided civil war where we would ostensibly be
I read an echo. All right.
Oh, that's annoying.
No, not for the whole time.
Okay.
The move to withdraw U.S. service members from northern Syria. What advice did you offer the president before he made this decision?
He and I didn't talk one-on-one on it. This was his decision, but I agree completely that it was the best thing not only for our troops, but it's also the best way to adhere to the Constitution. The Constitution says you don't declare a war unless Congress votes on it. And who are we going to declare war against? Our ally Turkey, the Free Syrian Army that used to be our ally, Assad. It's a sort of a messy situation. But he was told by the Turks that they were coming one way or another, and they had 50 troops. 50 troops don't stop 10,000 troops. You don't go to war with 50 troops. I think he made the right decision. I'm reminded of Beirut, when we made the wrong decision and had 300 Marines in a barracks that weren't well protected. I think if 50 troops had been massacred in there, then we'd be in an enormous war. So I think he made the right decision.
You really think that Erdogan would have sent the Turks across the border with U.S. service members there? I mean, that's the only thing that had kept them from attacking before.
Well, no, I don't think so. I think that what you found is in the early footage you saw, and I think you all showed some of this footage, that you saw some of our special operations teams having bombs still dropping very close to them.
Right.
So they didn't seem to be deterred, even though we still had soldiers in the region. So I think it was strategically the best thing to do. But also, here's the thing that may end up happening. This may be the best thing that ever happened to the Kurds because they need a protector in Syria that's willing to stay. We had been preventing having them talk to Assad. Now they've made an alliance with Assad, and the irony of this is it may end up being the best thing that ever happened to them. If Assad and Erdogan can now have a truce and Assad will agree to patrol the Syrian side of this, there's a possibility that the Kurds could have an autonomous region similar to what they have in Iraq.
That seems like very wishful thinking, if you don't mind my saying.
We'll see, Jake.
So
nobody knows.
The president's former point man on ISIS said today that, quote, U.S. personnel have been scrambling to evacuate positions surrounded by hostile Turkish-backed opposition forces. They are evacuating under duress and then bombing positions so nobody can seize them. Do you have any concerns about, forget the idea of withdrawing U.S. forces, we understand that you support that. Do you ever understand about the way many people feel this was rash, it was sudden, it was not done in consultation with the Pentagon, it was not done in consultation with the State Department, with U.S. allies, and there are Kurds who are innocent civilians who have been killed by the Turks and the Turkish-backed militias.
He said from the very beginning our goal was to wipe out ISIS, and we did. Our goal was not to create a homeland for the Kurds.
But ISIS prisoners are getting free out of the prisoner.
Well, if you want to have a homeland for the Kurds, it might take 100,000 troops. That's not what we signed up for. That's not what he said we were for. And I'm not for putting that kind of troops into an area. See, here's the irony. The left hated the Iraq War and hated George Bush for it. A Syrian war where we went in and created a homeland for the Kurds would be just as messy as the Iraq War. So I think the left needs to get over their hatred of President Trump and say, you know what, do we want another messy war in the Middle East? It used to be the left was against war in the Middle East. What happened to the left?
But what I'm asking about, though, is if there wasn't a better and more measured and more programmatic way to do this with planning as opposed to just like get them out right now.
I guess I have never seen so much hyperventilating of removing 50 soldiers. Normally, the Lindsey Grahams of this world would say Article 2 gives the president the authority to do whatever he wants, and we don't question the president because he has latitude. Now Lindsey Graham and all the War Caucus are up in arms on both sides of the aisle saying, oh my goodness, President Trump moved 50 soldiers. Well, he may well have prevented them from dying in a massacre and drawing us into a big, huge war with 5 different parties in it.
It's not just we should just note, it's not just the war hawks, the way you described Lindsey Graham. There was just this major vote in the House in which it was overwhelmingly rebuking President Trump, including the majority of House Republicans.
I would say that the majority of leadership on the Republican and the Democrat side are interventionists. They are people who believe, for example...
Not just the leadership, the entire... It's like, it was like 360.
But here, I'll give you an example. The president said we should leave Afghanistan. Mitch McConnell and all the Republican leadership and the Democrat leadership voted to rebuke the president, saying it would be precipitous to leave after 19 years. This is the prevailing swamp opinion. Republican and Democrats are unified in being in support of war, support of intervention, and support of never going home.
Do you have any concern about the ISIS prisoners that we're now told there is a great risk of them escaping? And President Trump's response was, well, they're not going to come here, they're just going to go to Europe.
Well, here's my response. Everybody says, well, the Kurds are going to use this and they're going to release them on purpose now.
No,
Why?
President Trump said that. I'm not saying that.
Why would the Kurds live there? The Kurds are the ones who have seen the way ISIS behaved. Why would the Kurds release these people?
I'm not saying purposely release them, but do you not have any concerns?
No, I do, but I'm actually a little bit reassured with the alliance with Syria and with Assad that it'll be less chaotic, and I predict...
Whose alliance with Assad?
With the Kurds allying with Assad. My prediction is this, and I may be wrong, predictions are wrong, but I think the Turks are going to slow their advance, and I think it's going to come to a standstill. And I predict that there actually will be a discussion between Erdogan and Assad, and I think there's a possibility we can get the Turks to pull back within Turkey.
But last question. I mean, the Russians and Turkey and Assad could have done something about ISIS to begin with, and they didn't, and that's why the U.S. went in.
But here's the thing is, the U.S. has been preventing any kind of discussion because it's been the policy of the War Caucus to have Assad removed. This is the John Bolton, this is the Lindsey Graham move. They believe in regime change. They want to get rid of Assad, and until Assad goes, but also the Hillary Clinton group wants this too. So it's really left and right saying we have to have regime change.
Well, the troops weren't there for regime change. They were there to fight ISIS. But I do
initially they were, but everybody kept changing their point of view on what they were there for.
So I have a compilation, and I'm not sure if it's back in my Twitter feed, where I have all the Obama and Hillary saying over and over again, we have to overthrow Assad.
Right.
We have to overthrow Assad.
Right.
I don't really need to show you, to let you know that that's what was going down. Let me see if I have it close to the top here, but I want you to know Donald Trump tweeted this out. By the way, it's almost had 4 million views. Fake news. Well, we covered this week. Knob Creek machine gun show in Kentucky, and ABC News used that as footage, saying that was Turkey invading, slaughtering Syria. Do you have a couple things going? No, that's them. That's them.
All right.
So here's one I wanted to show you. Thank God for the return of the Syrian Arab army. Fox News report shows Syrian Kurds who were under threat of extermination from the West's favorite moderate rebel jihadists celebrating the arrival of what Western politicians call the genocidal regime.
Kurdish officials wasted little time in finding a new partner after the withdrawal of U.S. forces, which
they're carrying around Assad's picture.
The Kurds? Wow.
Government troops under Bashar al-Assad reached the front lines within hours of the deal, a welcome sight to many Kurds on the ground.
Thank God for the return of our army. Thank God for the return of the Syrian Arab.
Celebrate.
Kurdish officials wasted little time in...
I think the blue one plugs in better.
Or it could just be they don't want to get this stuff out there. That happens to us.
So,
it's a conspiracy. Nancy
Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, I cannot get this episode, I cannot go through this episode without the big blow up last night where you had Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi on one side and you had Donald Trump on the other side. And
can I read his tweets?
Yeah, but I want to play this first.
Okay. Very little harm. How can we let this happen? They didn't have any good answer. This is appalling. The president had no plan, no real plan for containing ISIS other than relying on the Syrians and the Turks. Then why did we spend a decade, billions of dollars, and lost lives in trying to curtail ISIS if on a phone call, on a whim, the president is going to undo all of that and turn this over to the Turks and the Syrians?
Who obviously want ISIS running around as well, right?
He was insulting, particularly to the
you're
speaker.
Insulting. Listen.
She kept her cool completely.
Oh.
But he called her a third-rate politician. He said that there are communists involved and you guys might like that. I mean, this was not a diatribe. It was sort of a diatribe, a nasty diatribe.
He said there's communists involved and y'all might like that.
Oh my gosh. So I want to show you guys this actually because I want you to actually see it just because to me it's more fun that way. All right, here we go. You're not ready for this and I'm going to read it out loud. We're going to read it together. It says, all right, Nancy Pelosi needs help fast. There is either something wrong with her upstairs or she is just plain doesn't like our great country. She had a total meltdown in the White House today. It was very sad to watch. Pray for her. She is a very sick person. I just can't even. It's just too much fun.
All right. So here we have Matt Gaetz, one of the lone 60 on the House floor. Maddie, come here. Matt Gaetz.
Play it small. They can see it totally fine that way.
The sensible solution is to remove Turkey from NATO rather than keeping the United States inserted in Syria, presumably forever. This is why I oppose this resolution. I've heard my colleagues say we should not leave Syria without a strategy. Perhaps it is equally logical that we should not stay in Syria without a strategy, because in Syria we have tens of Americans stuck between armies of tens of thousands who have been fighting each other for hundreds of years and who will likely be fighting each other hundreds of years from now. Our mission to deprive ISIS of caliphate land has largely been accomplished with the help of the Kurds and with over $9 billion being paid to the Kurds. The Kurds have been fighting bravely where they live, but they have been trained, funded, and equipped by the United States. And we cannot accept the proposition that if we support a group of people because our interests align in one case, that this somehow morally binds our country to every conflict that they have, past, present, or future. To do this would constrain the utility of America's future alliances, not strengthen them. The blood of America's patriots is among our nation's most sacred currency, and it must be spent only when absolutely vital to protect American interests. We are not the world's police force. We are not the world's piggy bank. I support an America First policy on a foreign policy.
So this is what we had the left saying about George Bush day after day, year after year, minute after minute.
Right.
And guess what? They weren't wrong. But George Bush is a globalist,
Right.
and a leftist and a liberal at heart. Okay, and when the left woke up to it and realized George Bush was actually on our team,
that's why he can be friends with
that
Ellen.
is why he is praised right now.
So hang on,
today.
I want to sum up what Matt just said there, at least the part that stands out to me, and that's the fact that if we do go in for a reason anywhere in the world, and then to say that we now forever have to help them through everything and become their protector and their provider and like and their piggy bank, it would make it so that we could never go and help anybody.
Right.
And that's what's happened. We've gone in and we've just got stuck.
Right.
We never should have gone in to start with, but if there ever is a legitimate reason to go in, you can't then say, but if we pull out, you know, there is such a thing as teaching somebody to stand on their own 2 feet. And if you don't ever require them to do that, then they won't.
Okay, so here we have Donald Trump talking to ABC News about their fake fire.
We have a situation where Turkey is taking land from Syria. Syria's not happy about it. Let them work it out. We shouldn't be over there. And you should get your accounts correct. And you shouldn't be showing up buildings blowing up in Kentucky and say it's Syria, because that really is fake news. Yes, please, ask a question.
But you don't think the country's worried about ISIS? I mean, you mentioned earlier you think some of the countries might hate ISIS more than the United States. What?
So you are fake news.
Oh my gosh, I love that he called them out on that. That's so great.
Yeah. All right, so why don't you bring up the video with Ron Paul and Rand Paul there from the Liberty Report.
Okie dokie. Nope, that's the wrong one. Hang on. Here we go.
Yours is right there. I love that he is interviewing his son.
I know, it's really
Senator Rand Paul.
One day I'll interview you on my big show.
Okay.
Well, you know, the term that we're at war or we're in a certain part around the world because of our national security interest is loosely thrown around. But I think the way you determine whether something's in your national security interest is basically you have to debate it. Everybody has a definition of what is in your national interest, and the way the Constitution set it up was that we didn't give the power to the president to decide. It was supposed to be a big, spirited debate over whether or not to declare war. It would be in Congress, and then we would debate and discuss what is in our national security interest. If we had that debate right now over Syria, I don't think it would be very clear what our national security interest is. In fact, I don't think we have one in Syria. Intriguingly, though, the left was pretty good about the Iraq War. They criticized George Bush. Some of us on the right did as well. But now, the entire left-wing movement, it's hard to find a Democrat who will say, oh, you know, being in Syria is a mistake, because Trump did it, and Trump is moving forces out of harm's way. Now all the left completely has switched. Those who were opposed to the Iraq War are all now for inserting our troops into the Syrian war, but none of them want to have a vote on it because it'd be a messy vote, and none of them want to describe who the enemy is. And I think libertarians really across the country sometimes get trapped in the same thing as the Democrats, as they say, well, Trump's not a perfect libertarian and he's doing this in Saudi Arabia. Look, I object to the arms in Saudi Arabia, but when he does something right, I think libertarians should say, you know what, this is so much better than a Hillary Clinton or a George Bush. Any other Republican would already have us in another major war in Syria. If Lindsey Graham were president, can you imagine? So I think sometimes as libertarians we should be aware that when someone's not a perfect libertarian but doing the right thing, we ought to at least commend them for doing the right thing at the right time.
And I think that is fantastic. Speaking of that, here we have Rand Paul on the House floor.
Consent that the Senate proceed to the immediate consideration of calendar number 246, H.J. Res. 77, that the joint...
So this is the Senate wanting to do a unanimous approval of the House pass vote to condemn Trump pulling out these 50 troops.
Resolution be read a third time, and the Senate vote on passage with no intervening action or debate.
Is there objection?
Madam President,
The senator from Kentucky.
reserving the right to object, the Constitution is quite clear on this subject. If the minority leader wishes to engage in the civil war in Syria that's been going on for nearly a decade, we should obey the Constitution. He should come to the floor and say,
that we are ready to declare war, we are ready to authorize force, and we are going to stick our troops in the middle of this messy five-sided civil war, where we would be ostensibly opposed to the Turkish government that has made an incursion. We would then be opposed to our NATO ally. It would be the first time in history that we would be inserting ourselves militarily against a NATO ally. None of this is to excuse Turkey's action, and in fact today I will offer a resolution that would actually do something. The resolution that's being offered is simply a way to have petty partisan criticism of the president infect this body. Mine actually would have the force of law and would prevent any arms from being sold to Turkey, which would be a serious rebuke to what they're doing in Syria. But the Constitution is quite clear. No authorization has ever been given for the use of force in Syria. No authorization of declaration of war, no permission to be there at all. So if they want to insert themselves into the civil war, by all means, let's have a debate. Let's have the constitutional debate. But I, for one, am not willing to send one young man or one young woman, one soldier over there without a clear mission. There is no clear mission. There is no clear enemy. And in fact, the war is largely over. Assad is going to remain for better or worse. So we have a despot on one side, Erdogan. We got another despot on the other side, Assad. And here's the deal. The Kurds have to live there. It's despairing that they have to live there. But you know what? Their best chance for survival is having an ally inside of Syria.
Right.
If they become allied, and it appears they are, if they become allied with Assad, you know what? There is a possibility of a Kurdish area within Syria. There may well be an opportunity for a Kurdish area similar to what has happened in Iraq. So I object to this resolution because this resolution does nothing to fix the problem. My resolution would stop arms sales to Turkey, and so I will object to this resolution.
So I'm going to play for you his resolution.
Before you do that, somebody on Periscope, which is Twitter, had said, how was it fake news, the video? So if you're living under a rock, and don't take that the wrong way, ABC came out with video footage from Syria where Turkey had bombed Syria, and they literally played it. But what they did is they altered it, and they took footage from a Kentucky fire range called Knob Creek, and they altered it. There was lots of people in the crowd. They had cell phones, and they put that out as if this is what, they didn't say this might be what it looked like. They literally said this is footage from Syria, from the bombing, and they peddled it. They had to edit it. They knew what they were doing. You can see the side-by-side footage. We covered it, I think, on Monday. Yeah, I think it was Monday where we covered that, the Knob Creek fake news. So when Trump calls it out and says, you guys are fake news,
went on
they're falsifying
YouTube
news. I mean, it's so wrong.
Some sort of something that would look like an incursion in Syria, and they pretended that it was
ridiculous.
Syria. Okay, so here's Ron Paul's bill that actually would do something.
Yeah.
I would like to ask unanimous consent that we introduce Senate Bill 2624, Turkey arms sales, which would eliminate any further sale of arms to Turkey, and instead of sending a fake message or a sense of the Senate resolution, would actually be binding legislation and would tell the Turks, yes, we are serious, we object to your incursion into Syria, you need to respect the territorial integrity of Syria, and we are therefore no longer going to be selling your arms. I ask unanimous consent that this be passed.
And we'll see if they really mean it. All right, so a few things from this article I liked on Breitbart. Okay, do you know why Congress won't vote for a war resolution to save the Syrian Kurds, or even an authorization for the use of military force as it did after September 11, 2001? Here are some answers. The Kurds in Turkey and Syria are at war with Turkey and have been for centuries. The Kurdistan Regional Government, the KRG, if Iraq has maintained friendly ties to Ankara. Turkey is our NATO ally, so Congress wants Trump to risk war with a NATO ally, but they sure won't do it themselves.
Isn't that amazing?
A good relationship with Turkey is vital to our Middle East posture. We are already worried about Turkey aligning with Russian President Vladimir Putin and Iran, which Erdogan seems increasingly interested in doing. The Kurds only fight for the Kurds. It was in there in Syria's best interest to fight ISIS, and it still is. The Turkish government believes our Syrian Kurdish allies, the YPG or the People's Protection Units, fight alongside the PKK, which is the Kurdish-Syrian Workers' Party, a group of fevered communists that have called for separatist uprising among the Kurds in Turkey. In other words, they are causing all kinds of trouble in Turkey. The YPG tends to be pan-Kurdish and build bridges to all Kurdish groups, but it is a distinct entity from the PKK, which largely focuses on attacking Turkish police and soldiers. Oh, and did I mention the PKK is designated a terrorist organization by our own government, so America should shield terrorists as these terrorists conduct operations against a fellow NATO ally, assuming, and that's a big if, that Erdogan is telling the truth about the PKK and the YPG. If it, just vote on it. The Kurds are stateless and looking to create their own territory out of the land they are indigenous to, which consists of chunks of Syria, Iraq, Iran, and Turkey. The YPG are focusing on pieces of Syria right along the Turkish border, which Turkey, for obvious reasons, the PKK finds intolerable. Not for nothing, for years the Turks have been warning about securing a border region against the PKK, which means that the vaunted international community has had those years to work this out peacefully, but they would rather condemn Israel and swoon over Greta. I love that. It's an unholy mess. But if Congress wants to use our troops to fight on the side of designated terrorists against a NATO ally, then they need to just back up with that. Yes, we want to help the YPG, but our allies by treaty says this helps the PKK and blah, blah, blah. And so anyways, there's no end game here. There's no exit plan. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. And a local border skirmish that predates our own civil war and will outlive the great-grandchildren of everyone reading this.
Yes. It's been going on since, like, biblical times. I think it was Rand Paul that said that or something. I mean, it's ridiculous. It has been happening forever, for, like, as long as anybody can look back. So we've had these wars in the Middle East.
The best thing that can happen is that this ceasefire is happening right now.
I do have that. Well, okay, never mind.
Have agreed to a ceasefire in Syria. Turkish side will pause Operation Peace Spring in order to allow for the withdrawal of YPG forces from the safe zone for 120 hours. All military operations under Operation Peace Spring will be paused, and Operation Peace Spring will be halted entirely on completion of the withdrawal.
So, okay, let me clarify that, because it does sound like it's just a 120-hour withdrawal. That's not at all what's happening. Turkey has agreed to a legitimate ceasefire. This is not just...
If the troops leave the border region.
Right,
and
exactly.
if they're gone, then they're going to stop.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, because everybody keeps throwing this out. It's just 120 hours. It's just 120 hours. Right. No. Everybody has agreed to this ceasefire. Right. It just now has to unfold and take place.
Here's Trump.
But I didn't know it was going to work out this quickly. I didn't know it would work out this.
We stopped. Why is this historic? This is historic because Donald Trump, in the art of the deal, looks at every angle. And he's like a computer and says, he's like Dr. Strange. Okay, this is the only outcome.
Yeah.
Okay, how do we save the most lives? This is the only outcome. And I believe, and this is why I wanted to come live with you today, is I believe he's being led by the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
How do we save the most lives? How do we achieve some semblance of peace in the Middle East? And a lot of those ISIS soldiers or whatever that supposedly got out, they've been captured. Mm-hmm. Okay? So,
but let me make something clear, because I don't think people quite understand this hunger and bloodthirst of the swamp that's in the government.
Yeah.
Everybody gets all upset, like, about the Roman Empire or Hitler or whatever. They call Trump Hitler. You do realize that Hitler's goal was to go and kind of plant his flag and take over everywhere, where all of these people on the left want to go and plant the U.S. flag all over the world and say we need to have intervention in every single country, all over the world, and that somehow makes us noble and not conquerors.
Right, exactly.
And I'm like, wait a minute, Trump is the opposite of being Hitler, because he's not trying to intervene in all of these other countries.
You hit the nail on the head.
but I didn't know it was going to work out this quickly. I didn't know it would work out this well. It's a great day for the United States. It's a great day for Turkey. It's a great day for our partners who have really worked. I mean, a lot of people question some of them. I'm not questioning anybody. They really did. The Kurds were great. Great day for the Kurds. It's really a great day for civilization. It's a great day for civilization. So I just want to thank everybody.
So he's not wrong there.
But
it's a great day for civilization because what Trump is able to do is he was able to see, see everybody's angle, right? This is a great day for civilization. I am proud of the United States for sticking by me and following a necessary but somewhat unconventional path. People have been trying to make this deal for many years. Millions of lives will be saved. Congratulations.
Hang on. So pause on that. People have been trying to make this deal for years. Now, I know I shouldn't do this, but what happens when you read a comment that is ignorant, those are the ones that you want to address rather than all of the good ones. So we have an ignorant comment on Periscope, and they say, so Trump is passing by you. Says, so Trump creates a problem, then negotiates out of the problem that he created. My friend, male, female, him, her, she, whatever you are, you do understand that this problem goes back hundreds and hundreds of years, and that Trump defeated ISIS in a region and then decides, you know what? We got 50 guys there. They may not live. So I'm going to pull them back because our job is not to be here to police and watchdog the entire Middle East or even Syria and Turkey and the Kurds. I'm going to save, I value 50 U.S. lives, which obviously passing by you, you don't. I value these 50 lives. I'm going to pull them back. And then Turkey, the bully, comes in and says, well, since you pulled your 50 guys, I'm going to go and try to take this land that I've been wanting to take. And you, Mr., Mrs., whoever you are, passing by, you say, Trump created that problem?
So in this ceasefire, the ceasefire is Erdogan's going to stop going into Syria. Okay? And what Erdogan says is the reason he was going into that zone was because of this PKK and these Kurds who were attacking Turkey.
Okay.
That's what he was saying. Now, whether that's true or not, but he is not happy because he wanted to use this as an excuse to go get Syrian territory. Now, what
they're
it does
trying
is
to
it
take
opens
land.
Up, exactly. What it opens it up is the door between, you had Turkey, Kurds, and then Assad, Syria. Assad is the leader of Syria, whether for better or for worse. He is the leader of Syria.
Right.
So he has the ability now to go and now that border will now be kept safe because Assad isn't going into Turkey. Okay? Right? So, but Assad will defend his own border.
Right.
But he hasn't been able to do that because the Kurds have been there. Mm-hmm. So with the Kurds saying, hey, let's align with Assad, then you're going to have everybody is checkmated, and we don't have the uprising, and nobody wants ISIS, okay?
And it's far better, you need to understand this, that it is far better for Turkey and Syria and the Kurds to be working this out amongst themselves than to have the United States, which is a completely uninterested party, be standing in the middle saying, now wait, everybody has to go through us first, whatever we say is, and we're going to keep our guys here.
Our job is not to create a Kurdistan. Okay? The only way a Kurdistan could be created is if the whole international world came together and outlined borders like they did with Syria, like they did with Lebanon, like they did with Israel, okay? They did that, okay? And these borders are there. They have to be recognized by the international community. The United States does not have the authority to create a Kurdistan.
All right, so I just don't understand why we can't take this back to doing the whole, like, Star Trek thing. You know what I mean? When you come across a people... Okay, and you got to save some lives. That's fine, whatever. If it's coming to their whole planet is going to be destroyed by the Borg or whatever. Right. I get that. But they had like a mission statement where you had to kind of let it evolve the way that it was going to evolve. All right? I mean, unless there is something that is like legit mass, genocide or whatever, where we all together as a world decide, you know what, this is wrong. We gotta stop these people.
Rand Paul says, thanks, real Donald Trump, for achieving a quick diplomatic breakthrough. in the Turkey-Syria conflict. It's huge, it's big, it's awesome. Thomas Massey. 18 years, thousands of U.S. soldiers' funerals, hundreds of thousands of civilian deaths, millions of refugees, and trillions of dollars later, both of Bush's wars are still dragging on, and he has the audacity to say George Bush takes a shot at Trump. An isolationist United States is destabilizing around the world. We are becoming an isolationist, and that's dangerous for peace sake. For the sake of peace. I don't think that George Bush understands the idea of peace, and he actually should be in jail for crime. He's a war criminal.
Yes.
Millions are dead because of him.
Maybe he can share a cell with Tony Blair.
Just shut his mouth and go sit in the corner.
You shut your mouth and sit in the corner.
Needs to be in a sane asylum, in a padded cell.
And Ellen DeGeneres can come and visit you.
Exactly. What the United States has done to the Middle East has not brought any peace. Here's the thing. You have Islamists controlling these countries, and they are different sects of Islam, and they don't like each other, and they have been battling one another in an uncivilized manner since the beginning of civilization. Okay? and what this proves is that as Christianity has evolved, and it has, to become better and more perfect, and as our Constitution or our founders say, we want to evolve into a more perfect union.
Sure.
We want to become better and better and better. And Christianity has become better and better. From the middle and the dark ages of just utter barbaric methods of war and things like that, outshines Christianity as a beacon of realizing. An example is when the Puritans, they were used to burning people at the stake. In England, it was a thing, okay? That's what they did.
Right.
And then they burned a handful of witches, that they're supposedly witches. They were not probably the witches at all. And then they opened up their Bibles and they said,
and they read it for themselves.
And they read it for themselves. They said, and they had just gotten Bibles for themselves. Remember, they had just begun. It was the evil people who took over the church who made these things possible. The atrocities happen. But they opened the Bible and they said, this isn't what we're supposed to be doing. Right. And they repented and they made reparations to the families. And that was a moment where I was a turning point. For civilization.
But they actually never talk about that part in the Salem witch trials.
Right.
They only just say, can you believe that we at one point burned witches at the stake? And actually it's like when you compare it to the thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of witches that were being burnt at the stake in Europe at the time, and then it only took like a handful, like 20, less than 20, before these people realized, wait a minute, this isn't biblical. This is wrong. We should stop. It was self-correcting.
Right.
That's the Holy Spirit.
This deal that's been reached for Turkey to suspend military operations in northern Syria, as Vice President Mike Pence has confirmed in a briefing. A pause in military operations for 120 hours or 5 days while the U.S. facilitates an orderly withdrawal of its forces as well as partner SDF Kurdish forces outside of a 20-mile safe zone will take effect based on Thursday's meeting with President Erdogan. Pence said, meanwhile, a senior Turkish official has told the Middle East Eye, we got exactly what we wanted out of the meeting, because they had to say that. Pompeo, work remains in the region. Deal sets ground for resolution. Pence, Turkey agreed to cease ops permanently after the withdrawal. Pence says Trump very grateful for the effort on ceasefire. Trump says this deal could never have been made 3 days ago. There needed to be some tough love in order to get it done. Great, everybody. I am proud of you all. Let's see. The deal involves the removal of the U.S. sanctions conditioned on the pause and the roadmap to permanent ceasefire. Part of our understanding is that with the implementation of the ceasefire, the United States will not impose any further sanctions on Turkey, Pence said. And once a permanent ceasefire is in effect, the president has agreed to withdraw the economic sanctions that were imposed last Monday. This is this is a defining moment. As I was driving home, I thought this is the day Trump became president of the United States.
Wow.
Because what we had is we had Brian Williams saying the same kind of effect when Trump was tricked into bombing Syria,
right?
And going after Assad because
he
somebody
says, "Oh, look
said,
at those beautiful bombs going to Syria."
Somebody said they were chemical weapons when there weren't. We have covered that over and over and over again, and it is good patriots who have been little journalists talking to Trump and saying, listen, this war, this Obama war, this regime change war is not what it looks like.
Yeah.
Okay, Assad may very well not be a great guy. He is probably not a good guy. Okay? But he's not the worst of the guys.
Yeah.
He's not the worst of the guys.
Well, and again, it all boils down to, is it our job to go in and take out everybody we don't like?
Right. Exactly. And the way I look at it, and there are lessers of evils. Iran, they are jailing women for not wearing hijab for lifetime. You don't have to wear hijab with Assad. Christians and Muslims celebrate holidays together.
Right.
You can walk around and be a normal person. And Assad, Syria is so free compared to the rest of the Middle East, compared to Turkey. And that is why something had to be done. Right? Okay, so
Wicked Psych says, why aren't peaceful Muslims working as missionaries in some of the extreme areas to let the radicals know religion has evolved?
Right.
Perhaps because the radicals would just kill all the missionaries.
Right.
And probably have.
So, I'm going to end with this. It's kind of a really in-depth thread on what's going on over there. So we're just not looking at it through like this tiny little lens of, oh, Syria, Kurdistan, Turkey. Okay. So,
or the tiny little lens of we love Trump or we hate Trump and making our decisions on that.
Exactly. And we hit Trump hard when he went in. We have been, and most patriots, MAGA people have been,
holding Trump's feet to the fire.
Consistent
on this.
Okay. If Trump had gone in on a full-on offensive like Lindsey Graham wanted him to,
this would be a whole different stream.
We would be like, Trump, what are you doing? That's an idiot move. This is a Trump move. This is the day when Trump takes back the reins of the horses and says, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm actually going to do what I promised everybody I was going to do. And he is going up to the 2020 election. He needs to have some of these things in his pocket.
Right, what's happened with North Korea and now here with Assad and Erdogan and the Kurds.
Right. So, good short explainer on Kurdish history and independence. Also note that next year is the 100th anniversary of the Sevres Treaty, in which we allies, especially the British, promised the Kurds a referendum for Kurdish self-determination. Churchill supported the Kurds. This was supposed to be, as proposed by the Treaty of Sevres in 1920, the autonomous Kurdistan right here. Then we had the Ottoman Empire. Remember, the British and the French, and they all came in and they broke everything up in the early 1920s, and that's how you got, the state of Israel. The President Erdogan's perspective, the most extensive boundaries of the Ottoman Empire. Okay, remember you had Turkey were the Ottoman Turks. They had a large swath of land, and suddenly they just kind of shrunk down to just Turkey, the region of Turkey that we see today. Iran regime's perspective, everything is ours, right? The Russian perspective, everything is Russia, right? Okay. My periodic reminder that the Russians, Turks, and Iranians have been plotting and warring against each other in the Middle East, the Caucasus, the Black Sea, since well before the idea of a United States was a figment of rebellious imagination. Also, the 2019's Iran-Iraq border is where it is because of the border frontier agreed between the Persian Shias, Iran, and the Ottoman Sultans, Turkey, in treaties that were supervised by a Russian czar. The treaties of Erzurum of 1823 and 1847. The Russians then fought the Ottomans. 40 years later, Western security is still haunted by the fall of the Shia of Iran, which allows this person to talk about his own piece. He's written a piece on it. Gray Connolly. When I first started reading the geopolitics basics at school, he's talking about, do you realize that he recalled a retired British Army officer saying to him, you do realize that the Bible begins and ends in the Middle East for very good reasons. And you look at these maps and you look at what's the Ottoman Empire, and you look at where Turkey believes its borders should be deep inside their hearts, and we're not going to solve it,
right?
And we're just not going to solve it. The best thing we can do right now is to mitigate American lives being lost. And I know suddenly the left's all worried about ISIS and extremist Muslims and blah, 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 blah.
You know, you really weren't that worried about it when Obama was like friends with ISIL. Yeah, they're just, you know, they're not too bad. That's what he kept calling them. All right, so on YouTube, Mike Skidmore says, Elijah Cummings said that Trump will be elected over his dead body. Wicked Psyched replies to the missionary thing and says that's what missionaries were at risk of throughout all time, like dying. You know what? Yeah, but I think that these reformed Muslims don't want to die. So they are not willing to put their lives on the line to have their own fellow Muslims kill them, I don't think. Let's see. Britbot says the Ottoman Empire was amashed by the Crusades. Belinda Kennedy says Islam has been waging war in some form for over 1,400 years. Very true. Mike Skidmore says most of the wars are pushed by the puppet leaders in the Middle East that are supported by the CIA and Mossad. He thinks that the Jews are behind all wars. Wake up. We obviously disagree with you. I think it's just evil people.
That's retarded.
That's ridiculous.
Is the stupidest thing. The stupidest thing. That is so stupid.
To say that. I mean, they're like the tiniest little group of people. It's just evil people are behind. The globalists are behind all wars. That's a fact. And you can literally go back to specific people. But that makes them an evil person. They don't represent all Jewish people. That's ridiculous. But thank you for your comment anyway. Let's see.
It's stupid.
Well, the rest of it was spot on until you got to the Jews part. Let's see. Redneck says Obama was the biggest mistake this country ever made. You know what? Actually, I don't think that he was the biggest mistake that this country has ever made. But I will say that what it has done, without Obama, Trump wouldn't have gotten elected. Because we needed that stark. As Christians, we've been so, not just Christians, but conservatives, people that have a moral compass. We've been so complacent for so long that we were just ready to go along with the flow. We needed something, you know, we needed that, I think, to be able to rise up and say, okay, enough is enough. St. Mark says all of Roman Africa was fertile farmland. The Muslims came and turned it into desert because they didn't know how to farm it. Plus, they killed all the Christian farmers. Very true, St. Mark. So Britt Baza reminds me, we have a lot to cover. Leah is obviously, you can see by the look on her face, processing a lot of things right now. Whatever she's thinking, it must be very serious. What we have coming up on Saturday is kind of important. We're having Deal or No Deal Saturday in the UK. Boris Johnson, Prime Minister of the UK, has come back with a deal with the EU that the EU has agreed upon. What's going to happen is they're going to put it before the House of Parliament in the UK, and they're going to vote on this deal. If they accept this deal, then we have some sort of Brexit of sorts on October 31st. If they reject this deal, supposedly according to the Ben Act, you will have a no-deal Brexit on October 31st. There is no in-between. So Saturday is going to be the make it or break it day. We will try to come to you about that once the vote is in and let you know the breaking news that has happened, whether we're going to walk away with this deal or and so a lot of people are saying that Boris Johnson has played his hand artfully, just like Trump here, playing chess. Like he's kind of cornered them. So now we've got they've got memes of him with deal or no deal.
Nigel Farage cornered them.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, Bojo just kind of walked into this whole thing.
Nigel Farage.
Although it's interesting to watch Boris Johnson give speeches and stuff like that, and like Theresa May is sitting behind him, kind of. I mean, she's still an MP, so she's still got to be there representing her district. So we will see what happens. As a result of that.
We have more things to do, and so I wanted to sign off here, guys. Thanks you for joining us. Way to go, Trump. Please like, comment, and subscribe to Mass Phase 3 and Resistance Chicks. Ring the bell for notifications. Find us on Facebook.
Follow us on Twitter. If you have your letters, send them to P.O. Box 107, Milford, Ohio 45150. Thank you to all of our moderators and everybody who is here on Periscope and Facebook and YouTube today. We're streaming live on all 3 of those platforms, and we love that you guys are here with us. So we'll see you back tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We've got a lot to cover for our weekly roundup. We'll hit on this and so many other stories that we have yet to bring to you, like including Project Veritas and so on and so forth. So, all right. God bless.
I was cold all alone. No place for home every day. So afraid, but you called my name.